What is a woman? Is a woman bold?
How dare you?
Is she courageous?
He was arrested on December 1st, 1955.
She's a fighter, risk taker, lawmaker,
Were always rationalized as favors to women.
educator, creator.
Anybody asks what I thought, I would write it.
You see a woman, she's a leader.
We, the people, have the power to build a better future.
She's a believer, high achiever,
Thank you for this award.
more a giver than a receiver. Woman of hope
For there is always light if only we're brave enough to see it.
for the next generation to not be so cold. Women give love,
I've given it to everyone I know. I love this book.
women give light. Women are the essence of life. Is she everything that we said she wasn't?
Who will have the power to shape our children for the next 4 or 8 years of their lives?
Or is she everything that she said she wanted? Just look in her soul. We can see her light shine. What is a woman?
Hey, Stephanie.
What's going on?
How are you?
I'm pretty good. It's not raining, so that's a good thing.
And actually, it's actually very nice here. The last couple of days in New York, it's been like 60, and really, really good weather. And missed you the last couple of weeks. We had to kind of shuffle the deck a little bit.
Yeah. It's well, you know what though? I think we've gotten used to just kind of like doing a little dance and figuring things out as we go along.
That's right. That's right. In case you're just joining us for the first time, this is Kick on Healthy Relationships to the Curb. We're here every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. It's also rebroadcast on Cablevision here locally in the tri-state area and abroad. So it's Stephanie McPhail. I'm Steve Vaccaro, and Stephanie is an author, and she has a book and a workbook out there. Why don't you fill us in, Steph?
Sure. I am the author of the #1 new release in codependency called Being Loved Shouldn't Hurt. I felt a calling to write that book after overcoming my own cycle of toxic relationships. I was a successful woman who was successful everywhere except when it came to relationships. And I got tired of being sick and tired. So I did the work. I got the right support. And I was able to really create the life of my dreams. And I realized that if I could do it, literally anyone else could do it. They just needed to know the right steps and tools. So I wrote that book with love, hoping that other people will be inspired to also take the steps that they need and realize they don't have to keep suffering and that there is a better life out there for them.
There is. You know, sometimes we start off the show with a video or something, and we chose that one to really acknowledge women. And they have a lot of women have had challenges over the years and able to overcome them. And I consider you one of those strong women that really are changing the world, Stephanie. I mean, the last couple of years you pivoted, you've had, you're raising a family, but at the same time, you're empowering others.
Well, you know, I have so many clients that I'm constantly inspired by. I mean, some stories that I hear that I have to take a break afterwards. And I'm sure as a psychotherapist, you hear some of those stories as well, Steve, but those stories where you're like, how did you deal with that? How did you overcome that? And here they are looking to do what they can to not only overcome everything they've dealt with, but to help other people. I mean, there's so much goodness in people's hearts. I think we get sucked into social media and get sucked into the news and all that kind of stuff. We forget or don't realize how many good people there are trying to do wonderful things, even coming from such trauma. So, you know, if you're watching this and you're like, you know, I've seen some stuff, but I still want to love the world. I still want to be out there and I want to make sure nobody else suffers the way I did. Keep fighting the good fight, because there's a lot of need for that out there. A lot of people need to hear your story.
And you know, a couple of days ago, I worked in a couple of school districts. A couple of days ago, I got a phone call out of the blue from a former student for I haven't talked to this person for over 8 years. Found my number, contacted me. He was distraught. He needed support, immediate support. And in the conversation that we had when he called randomly, he brought up some things that I talked about in class 8 years ago. And sometimes you forget what an impact you have on children. He brought that up and he thanked me for those times where I was the teacher and teaching these students, and it helped the situation now because he felt comfortable reaching out to me, even though we hadn't talked in years. So I was able to respond, able to support what he needed to go through and his family. And it turned out that it was a situation that he overcame immediately. But what you say, when you empower women and other people, it really is life-changing sometimes. And I see that in our shows for the last couple of years now, time after time, you're bringing up clients and other colleagues of yours that are doing the same thing.
It's really, it makes me so happy. I right before the show, I had someone that I only worked with for a short period of time tell me that she has a better job than she's ever had before. And she's going to the gym now and working out and taking care of herself. And like all these things that she wasn't doing when she started working with me. And I'm not saying it's me. I think sometimes you just need that light. You need the inspiration to know that you can do it. A lot of times you can have the tools, but if you don't really know exactly what to do and you don't have anyone in your corner, it's hard to do those hard things.
Right. And we have to say a couple of holidays out there. Easter time is coming on Sunday, so I know you have young ones, so we want to say happy Easter to everyone out there. For all the people that are in the Jewish faith, happy Passover is at the same time as well, and also happy Ramadan celebration and acknowledgement to those 3 holidays, because it really affects most of us around the world. And it's such a holy week that a show like this is important to bring people together as well.
Yeah, for sure. I always laugh because my he's part Jewish, but he's no idea. So I'm like, isn't it Passover? He's like, yeah, it is. But like, how am I reminding you of your own holiday?
Well,
I'm an honorary Jew.
So now you have young kids. Do you do the whole Easter egg thing?
Oh yeah. I think we're gonna do it on Saturday because
okay.
I think we might even do it Saturday and Sunday. I mean, Jesus didn't put out Easter eggs, so I'm sure it's okay.
Right. Yeah, I don't know how the whole Easter egg thing happened to begin with, but that's another show.
That's a whole other show. But they're super excited. We did something actually a few weeks ago at a local church, and that same church is doing something on Saturday. So we're gonna go there. They're having face painting, and they're gonna like bounce houses and popcorn and all the sorts of fun things that'll get them all riled up. So we're going to do that. And actually on actual Easter Sunday, I think we're going to still do another Easter egg hunt, but just at our house. And then I found a really cool live music venue that's doing something outdoors. So I figured what better way to celebrate than to go and listen to some live music.
That sounds great to me. Recently I've been talking at some high schools, been driving through some towns in Long Island, seeing some high school kids doing their thing. And I'm working with high school kids that lost their senior year because of the pandemic. So I'm working with a lot of families and children, high school kids that are transitioning from high school head to college, and they really struggled with it. So it reminded me, high school, they lost their 6 months of high school basically at the end. They lost their prom, their graduation, the end of the year parties, and they lost their yearbook thing. I thought about, I got to track my yearbook down, and because it's been a long time. So Stephanie, let's go back to high school for a minute. I know you had a yearbook or two. Let's check out a picture of you back in the day. I don't know if your hair was curly or straight. I don't even know what was going on. That is Stephanie. Check her out.
That picture didn't even look like me. Actually, it was so funny because I took that picture and I brought it home to my parents, and they're like, did they give you the wrong picture? Because it didn't even look like me when I was in high school. It literally doesn't look like me now, but My hair was light, like it just didn't look like me at all. So it was, it's kind of funny that that's what lives in infamy. There definitely is what I looked like.
Oh, you had little curly cues going on.
I was letting myself be natural. That was junior year with the bangs, and it was awesome.
And this
eighth grade, had to keep those bangs up. It would take me like 45 minutes to tease those things to have them box shaped that way.
Can you come on the show next week like that?
I don't even know if I could do it anymore. I'd have to cut more bangs. Like I don't have enough bangs anymore.
Well, what's fair is fair. I have to show you a couple of high school pictures of me. And whoa, what's going on? I look like Dracula there.
Look at those curls.
Look at the eyebrows and that tie. Oh my goodness, look at that tie. I don't even remember that. And that's high school gang right there. That's me on the left and a bunch of friends. And I did graduate, so that's proof that I did graduate. Had it right there, and that's me and my mom. Recently passed away. A couple years back, but. High school was a time. I went to Amityville. Where'd you go to high school?
I went to Hotbog High School. We were the Eagles.
The Eagles. We were the Warriors. So I think I played baseball. I played baseball and I wrestled, and a lot of good memories in my senior year of high school because that's when you transition. Was the transition hard for you when high school ended?
I really couldn't stand high school. It was not my best memories, but I actually graduated high school early and went to community college. And so I couldn't get out of there fast enough. And when I got to community college, I was like, all right, this is what people have been talking about. Like there was just a lot of not nice kids. I was picked on a lot in middle school and high school. So once I got out, then there was no more, I didn't have to be picked on anymore.
You should have contacted me. I would have took care of those guys.
Big brother Steven would have taken care of. Yeah, I needed a big brother to take care of me.
Yeah. Well, you certainly turned things around, and I actually like your hair better this way than I did back then. So I don't know.
You know what? I mean, big hair was big then.
Big hair was it. But we have a great guest today, Marissa Hernandez, and to set her up before she comes on, we picked out this video that kind of looks at how cultural differences affect business. Let's check it out.
I have spent the last 16 years studying how cultural differences are changing global organizations. But I have not always been working in a cross-cultural space. I was raised in a very monocultural place. I was raised in Minnesota, in the Midwest of the U.S. And it was only later as an adult that I started living in other countries and kind of learning about these things. But I had a situation early in my career that got this all started for me, where I was on a trip to Japan with a Japanese colleague, and I gave a short presentation to a group of Japanese participants, and at the end of the presentation I asked them if they had any questions. When I looked at the group, no one raised their hands, so I went to sit down. My Japanese colleague then said to me, "Erin, I think actually there were some questions. Do you mind if I try?" And I said, "Okay, fine." So he then stood up, and again he said, any questions? And again no one raised their hand. But this time he looked very carefully at the group. "Oh, do you have a question?" And the woman said, "Well, thank you, I do." And she asked a fascinating question. And then he did it again. "Oh, do you have something you'd like to say?" "Yes, thank you, I do." So afterwards I said to him, how did you know that these people had questions? And he said to me, "Well, it had to do with how bright their eyes were." And I thought, wow, they don't teach us that in Minnesota. So then I said, "But how do you know how bright their eyes are?" And he said, "Well, in Japan we don't make as much direct eye contact as you do in the West. So when you ask people if they have any questions, most people are not looking at you directly. But a few people in the audience are looking directly at you, and their eyes are bright. And that indicates that they would be comfortable with you calling on them. So the next day I gave another presentation, and again I asked if there were any questions, and again no one raised their hand. But this time I thought, okay, I'll just try. So I did as he'd instructed, and I looked carefully at the group, and I saw, just as he said, that only a couple of people in the room were looking directly at me. And if I really thought about it, well, yes, okay, their eyes were bright. So, I gestured to one of them, and he kind of went like that, and then I said, would you like to say something? And he said, yes, thank you. So this was a very important experience for me because, well, there's an expression in Japanese which is kuki yomanai. They shorten it to KY, and it means someone who is unable to read the atmosphere, or someone who's unable to read the air, meaning to pick up the communication that's in the air. And here we could see that he clearly could read the air, and I was clearly KY. But I also saw that with a little bit of assistance and direction, that I also could become better at picking up those signals that were in the air. So then as I was thinking about this, I became very interested in trying to figure out if there was a method that we could use to help people to better read the atmosphere when they were working with cultures that they didn't know intimately. And we then started to develop this framework that came from lots and lots of research, where we divided culture up into different types of behaviors. And we started looking at, how is trust built in different parts of the world, and how do we make decisions differently in different parts of the world. And we saw that we were able to come up with patterns for how countries or cultures fell differently on those scales.
Well, we wanted to bring that video up just to kind of segue our guest. And what did you think, Steph?
I love it. I think that right now, one of the biggest conversations we're having is about cultural differences. I mean, The past few years have really shed a light on some of the big major issues we're having with diversity. And I think that it's something that's just not talked about. And there's been whole areas of the world that have been ignored. I mean, you look at healthcare, you look at, all these different things. I just had, this is kind of related. I had a client yesterday tell me that she had some very severe abuse going on, but it seemed as if, and maybe it's not true, but seemed to her as if she did not get the attention that she needed because of her ethnic background. And, that feeling that is kind of, I don't know, like in the forefront of people, like I'm not seen, I'm not, no one's noticing me. Like in Kanto, all of a sudden people are like, these little kids are like, oh, there's me up on the screen, so I think that people have missed that mark so much when it comes to advertising and just in general, that I love that it's being talked about more.
Well, I think it's time to bring our guest on. She's a dynamic person. She's doing wonderful work. Marissa Hernandez is a mentor, strategist, an entrepreneur, wife, and mother. She helps other entrepreneurs and business owners use the powers of multicultural marketing and diversity to scale their businesses so they can make an impact in the world. And Marissa is definitely making an impact on the world. Welcome to the show, Ms. Hernandez.
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much for having me.
She's a fellow Texan, Steve. See, we are from Texas, and you are all the way up there in New York. So I've got my team here.
See, Stephanie, within 10 seconds, you throw me under the bus. I don't know what this is all about. You couldn't wait to do that, could you? Right?
Nothing wrong with New York. Just saying, I got my Texas over here.
There you go. Texas power. But Marissa, we showed that video a little bit. Explain to our viewers a little bit specifically what you do and why do you do it?
Yes, so specifically, I help business owners, entrepreneurs connect with multicultural audiences. These audiences are usually sidelined, they're misrepresented, they're underserved, they're waiting to connect with brands, and these consumers are very loyal to the brands that they do make a connection with, yet no one is reaching out and making that connection with them. So I am here to help make an impact and hopefully bridge that gap. I've helped several business owners bridge that gap to where not only are they seeing their business grow, but they're also able to make a positive impact in the world, and their products and services can even help even more people than they ever realized was possible. So it's a win-win solution, and I'm just loving every moment of it.
That's wonderful. Yeah, sometimes we pop up a quote and we kind of talk about it a little bit before we get started. I want to share a little quote and see what your thoughts are about that. And perfect. I think, Carmine, if you have that quote, pop it up on the screen there. You may not control all the events that happen to you, but you can decide not to be reduced by them. What do you think, Marissa?
That is very true. What happens to us is outside of our control. Unfortunately, we can't control it. As much time and energy and money sometimes as we spend as humans trying to control every detail, we can't. And we have to make sure that we're not letting the outside influences control our lives in such a way that it gets yucky, right? When we let these outside influences and the events that are happening to us take control of our life, we lose control of ourselves, and we lose ourselves in those situations. So I definitely agree with that quote 100%.
Steph?
I totally agree with what Marissa said, but I think that mindset piece is so hard, because if you've been made to feel a certain way your whole life and you don't know any different, it's very difficult to see that it doesn't have to be the way it is. So I think for a lot of us, it's really hard to get out of that hole that we feel like we're in. But it's people like you, Steve, people like you, Marissa, that come out and have a face, that talk about this stuff openly, that let people see that there's a light, that there's a chance for them to do more for themselves.
Yeah, definitely.
And Marissa, explain, a little bit more in detail how you establish rapport with your clients and what the goal is for each client. I would imagine it's different from each client that you work with.
Yeah, it's really different because people reach out to me for several different reasons. Some of my clients come to me because unfortunately they've made a mistake, either with their advertising or marketing that maybe offended a certain demographic. So they come to me for solutions and fixes to help their brand survive and overcome that. Some people come to me because they are hoping to reach a wider audience, as far as reaching people that are in a different language, that are speaking Spanish, for example. That's very popular in the US since we're so close to Mexico. Also French for a lot of the Canadian brands. So I have people reach out to me for that. And then the people that need my services the most, and the people that I want to reach the most, unfortunately, are the people that don't quite realize the value of business diversity. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the Febreze commercial, the air spray, where the people that need it the most, they called nose blind, to where they would have these odors in their home. For example, a pet odor. They would live there, get used to it, not find anything wrong, and have someone come over, and that's all they could smell was the pet odor. So they were the ones who needed the Febreze the most, and yet they didn't even know they needed it. That's kind of how it is with what I do too. A lot of the companies that are sidelining these demographics, and to no fault of their own, this is, like Stephanie said, not talked about enough. It's not taught in traditional business education. For example, when I went to school for marketing, and so it's not to any fault of their own, but they need this more than they realize because they don't know they need it. So it's, different walks and everything, but I strive to help everyone that I can. So.
Well,
I'm thinking, sorry, Steve, I'm thinking about probably about a year and a half, 2 years ago, I had a client who was diverse. She was like 5 or 6 different ethnicities. So she was definitely very diverse herself. And I remember one time that I had said something that she found very offensive, and I had no idea that it was, because I feel like I try to be very open-minded and try not to be that way. And we were able to talk about it and talk it through. And I found out and understood her perspective of why she, why she felt that way. And some of it was her own background, what she had associated with, and some of it was mine. And so we were able to have this really open dialogue, and it was such a great learning experience. But I don't think that happens for a lot of people. I don't think people put themselves into that position where someone calls somebody out on something that they did. And I don't think other people will take it well. Like they might get very defensive and get angry. Like as soon as I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I did not mean to do that at all. Please tell me what I did wrong because I don't want to do it again. And I think that, like, just like you said, the people that need it have no idea that they need it. They're like, oh, I'm fine. We're doing everything fine. And actually, Marissa and I were talking about before she came on the show, we were talking about how some companies, they're like, oh, let's just throw a little diversity in the commercial. Let's just, take out a white person and put somebody else of color. But it's still the same exact thing. It's just a different color in the commercial. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, definitely.
Have you noticed that, Steve? Have you seen that?
I totally noticed that in these commercials, and it's hard. You can see it. I mean, it's very clear what's going on here.
Yeah.
But, it's disjointed a little bit. So I guess, Marissa, let's break it down a little bit. What is multicultural marketing so people understand that?
Definitely. So multicultural marketing is being able to not only market to the total sector or the total market, what it's called generally, it's breaking it down and making it more segmented. Like Stephanie was saying, communication is key when it comes to multicultural marketing, because being able to have that open communication with consumers, doing the research, being able to know exactly what it is that they are looking for, because cultural backgrounds do influence consumer behaviors, consumer buying habits. The purchasing power of minorities is rising. So these businesses are using the powers of multicultural marketing to not only understand exactly what these demographics need and are craving, but being able to deliver that to them in a way that resonates, connects with them, and that they fully understand and appreciate. So that's what it is in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm.
What got you, sorry, Steve, what got you passionate about doing this? Like did you start off doing this, or did you kind of like switch as you got into what you were doing?
Yeah, great question. So I definitely did not start off with multicultural marketing. I went to school and graduated with my bachelor's degree in marketing. And it was while I was in school mostly where I was kind of noticing some of the things that were in the textbooks and the things that we were learning. And when we would do mock campaigns and things like that, I would always have this little thought in the back of my head, hey, this wouldn't resonate with my family per se, or this doesn't really talk to me the same way as it did a classmate who is maybe of a different ethnicity, myself being a biracial Latina. So I would kind of notice these things, and at first I just put it off. Obviously thought I was the student and I didn't know, but it kept bugging me, and it got to the point where I did a little bit of research on my own outside of it, and that's when I stumbled upon multicultural marketing, and I was like, wow, so I'm not crazy here. I graduated, started working in marketing firms. Obviously, a lot of businesses want to reach different consumers. A big one, like I said, is the Hispanic market, just because we're so close to the border in the US. And we would do these marketing campaigns where we would translate the content into Spanish, and the campaigns would just flop. And these marketing firms would be like, oh, well, that's normal. We know that we don't get too good of a return on investment. So that's why we don't do it that much. So we'll just wait until next quarter to try again, But I was like, no, there has to be a different way. And that's when I really looked to go back to school, get certified with multicultural marketing, started implementing these strategies into the campaigns that we would do. And the results were phenomenal. They were insane. I'd see businesses double, triple, clients calling and saying, what are you doing? And that's when I realized these consumers really just needed to be engaged in the correct way. And so that's how I happened upon it. About 3 years, I left corporate and said, I'm going to try to take an entrepreneurial journey. And it's been great ever since. And so that's how I got into this and how I'm able to bring it to the world.
So 3 years ago, you left corporate. Was that like a tough thing to do? I mean, or you were ready to leave? Were you nervous? Were you scared to make that jump?
It is a little scary because you have a steady source of income when you have a regular job. You know what to expect. As long as I clock in at this time, go home at this time, I'll make a X amount and I'll be able to cover these expenses. So it is a lot different when you're on the entrepreneurial journey, especially starting out, because you can have highs and then you can have lows. So it was difficult to take the risk. It helped because my husband a couple years before had started his own business. So I was able to see his journey and kind of look at his example. That helped, but it definitely was difficult, but thus far has been worth it. So
This is Kick on Healthy Relationships at the Curve. That's Stephanie McPhail. I'm Steve Vaccaro. That's our guest, Marissa Hernandez. And you talked about your husband, and we talk about the unhealthy relationships, but talk about how the importance of that healthy relationship got you to the point where you're at now.
Yeah, my husband, Superman, just everything, my best friend. He knowing after having unhealthy relationships in the past, and being able to have something that is real and something that is beautiful and something that isn't abusive or manipulative is just amazing. Being able to have his support and his guidance and patience with me has been world changing, honestly. It's so different having a healthy relationship after having an unhealthy one. You appreciate it that much more. You're that much more grateful for it. So I give thanks for my husband every day and for putting up with me and getting me through some of my tough times, because I did carry some of the old baggage from unhealthy relationships into the healthy one. But luckily his patience and love has helped me be able to overcome that, and supporting me to become the best version of myself so that I can overcome has been amazing.
Do you think you would be able to do what you're doing now if you had still been in those past toxic relationships?
No, not at all. There's no doubt in my mind, just because I've always been an ambitious type of person. I think I've had an entrepreneurial spirit since a young age, because great ideas would always come into my head, and there would be different ways that I would try to have different sources of income from a young age, but never really able to bringing anything to fruition just because being in such a toxic relationship. So it's now definitely only to where I was able to heal myself and able to find someone to love. Now that I am healed, that's when I've been able to reach my full potential and, take this journey, because before that, I'm positive that I wouldn't have been able to do so.
It's draining. For some reason, I haven't thought about this, but as you were talking, I remembered you talked about always having an entrepreneurial spirit. Little funny story. So I was like 13, and I was the oldest of all the kids on the block. All the kids of the block would all hang out together.
Yeah, we saw the picture of you, Stephanie, when you were 13. We got the picture of you.
Yeah, you've got that picture. I know you saw the hair. So that's 11th grade. It's there we go. That's Stephanie. So imagine this, 8th grade Stephanie. And, I'm the leader of the pack, and we wanted to get candy, but none of our parents would just get us bags of candy. So I decided that we would sell lemonade on the corner. And so I got 2 or 3 of the kids from the neighborhood to help me sell lemonade. And we had more than enough candy several times to, more than enough money to get tons and tons of candy. So I was always looking how to get what I wanted by what do I need to do? I have to get money to get this? Okay, good. I will do this. But same thing, there's no way I'd be able to do what I do now had I not, have overcome the toxic relationships, because you're so drained, you're so overwhelmed. There's not enough time in the day to take care of the person who's toxic and try to follow your dreams.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so you had that entrepreneur spirit too, Stephanie.
Yep.
That was good too, and that's so important. I think, and the network, we have a slogan where unity and diversity meet one chapter at a time, and the word diversity is so impactful, inspiring. And how important is that to be in the forefront of any business? Diversity.
It's extremely important. If diversity is not at the forefront of a business, not only are they closing doors for their business that would otherwise be wide open, but it's just not needed. It's not necessary. we're in 2022. It's time for a change, and any business who doesn't recognize, I feel like, the need for diversity in the day and age that we are in is kind of like the Febreze commercial, like we mentioned, is nose blind and definitely needs it. It makes the world a better place. It brings unity. The clients that I have worked with that have put diversity at the forefront of their business just have a satisfaction knowing that they're making an impact. They were able to offer their products or services to a whole new demographic of people who needed them, who are benefiting from what they have to offer. And it's just an amazing experience. So I would say diversity is one of the most important, if not the most important thing for a business, because we're in such a diverse landscape that if it's not adopted, we risk losing so many people that would otherwise benefit from what we have to offer.
Yeah, it's well said. And, the pandemic has really hit us all in the last 2.5 years. For you, the work that you do, was it more of a challenge for you, or did you pivot from it and help be able to empower more people?
Yeah, well, definitely a pivot was necessary. But luckily I was able to pivot in a way, working virtually already before the pandemic started helped a little bit, I believe, because I was already in the virtual space before. So it was great to see a lot of people that were coming onto the virtual space as well and needed help. And just being able to pivot and provide what was needed in the time of need was great. With the pandemic, a lot of, like Stephanie was mentioning, health companies and health brands and different things like that were reaching out because were a lot of minorities who were being sidelined as far as health and information went. So I was able to be there and supply help when that was needed. So it did take a pivot, but it was great nonetheless.
I mean, Stephanie, when you hear Marissa talking like that, because we both pivoted, and I think it's even more empowering. And you brought it up too. The experiences that we have when we're younger make who you are today. And Marissa, you mentioned that if you were still in toxic relationships, you couldn't do the work that you're doing now. So what's the percentage of the people, your clients, are in toxic relationships now? And how do you establish rapport with those folks so they can move beyond it and to help in their business sense?
Yeah, so that they can realize the importance of having these relationships with consumers. The number one thing that the first thing that we always touch on is you have to look outside of yourself, right? If we only look to ourselves for what we know to be true or what others who are like us or surround us know to be true, we're missing out on a lot of really good information. So it's taking a step outside of ourselves, taking a step outside of what we think and what we know and what we believe, and being open to the possibility and the idea that there are others out there who have a different experience, culture, story, and we can benefit to learn from that. And not only learn from that, learn to communicate in such a way, kind of like the video that you guys showed before I came on. That was perfect, a perfect example of being able to communicate in such a way where maybe it's just asking the question a little bit differently and knowing. And it didn't take, like in the video, it didn't take someone of the same race or the same ethnic background to do that. The man knew how to do it first and knew how to communicate with them first, but she was able to then learn how to do it and do it for herself. So that's what I try to do, is help these business owners learn to do it for themselves so that they can fully connect with these consumers.
I was thinking just now about, so I was a teacher for 17 years in the New York area in Long Island. And I remember one time we had someone come in to talk about diversity education because we were a very diverse school district. And a lot of the teachers were white. There was not much diversity at all with the teachers. And I remember a lot of the teachers, a good amount of the teachers, fighting against the diversity education. And to me, it was kind of horrifying because I was like, wait, why aren't you listening and being open to this? And a lot of the teachers were saying, they're like, well, I'm diverse. I treat everybody exactly the same. There's no difference in how I teach my students, no matter what their ethnic background is. And one of the things that the teacher was trying to share was, and it was something that I was happy to give, like I did like one of these yeses, because one of the things that I love from my students, now my clients, from people that I randomly meet, I find out their story. Like, I love hearing people's stories. Like, where did you come from? What did you experience? What was life like for you? And I had so many kids tell me these stories where I was like, oh my gosh, you were 12 when that happened. You were, 8 when that happened. Kids coming to me and telling me about like, oh, Ramadan is now, like, they're all excited to tell me these things. So I got to hear from their perspective, all their backgrounds, all the things they're excited about, the things that were special to them. And that to me was so cool. While some of the other teachers were like, I don't want to hear those stories. I'm just going to treat everybody the same. How do you think that negatively affects kind of everybody with that kind of scenario?
Yeah, it definitely affects negatively, even though I feel like people think it's a positive thing, right? Treat everyone the same. There should be no difference. We're all the same on the inside. So I think anyone who is conveying that message really does it from a good place. They have a good heart. They're really trying to do the right thing. But unfortunately, that doesn't work, whether it be in the education system, like you said, Stephanie, with students, whether it be with consumers and businesses, whether it's with relationships as well. It can be, we can't treat everyone the same. We can't talk to everyone the same because not everyone receives information the same. Just like back to the video, they asked the question and he was the only one at first able to receive answers. So if we talk to everyone the same, we risk not talking to anyone, not being able to get the message across to nearly as many people as we could have, if we can cater and change the message just a little bit to the different consumers that we're trying to reach. So it sounds like it's a good thing. It comes from a good place, but really we have to be careful with it because everyone's not the same. Our cultures, our backgrounds shape us. Like Steve said, who we are around, our relations from the past shape us to who we are today. And all of that plays a huge impact on how we take and receive information.
I got to tell you a quick story about diversity too. From New York, we moved to Maryland, and my daughters were born actually in Maryland. They were young, and I remember taking them to me and my two daughters, Giovanna and Angelo, taking them to Chuck E. Cheese, and right around where we lived, I took them there the first time, and there was no diversity at all. There was none whatsoever. Coming from New York, I was not happy. So the next week, I wasn't even like Chuck E. Cheese, but the next week, I took them to Chuck E. Cheese in inner city Baltimore, and there was a lot of diversity, and they had the time of their life, and they met friends, and they actually still in contact with a couple of them. But I tell you the story because my oldest daughter, Giovanna, got married to Dasa, her husband, from Brazil, and his parents could not come to the wedding here in New York because of visa stuff, so they had to do a live FaceTime, so they couldn't come to the wedding. Well, she made her first trip to Brazil last year, and she sent me a text, and she went for the first time. She met his family. She did this selfie with like 40 people in back of her. She sent it to me, and she said, Daddy, thank you for teaching me diversity. And, when I told you the story before when she was like 5 or 6 to now, it really hits home. Diversity has to be the foundation to any business, any relationship, especially in this day and age. And if they don't have it, Marissa, what's the consequences? What's the ramifications for a business if they don't have that?
Yeah, the ramifications can, range from minor to major. Kind of like I mentioned before, some clients reach out to me because they've made a mistake. So some of the things that I've seen is potentially using some form of language that has been offensive to a certain demographic that has been. So just offending people, which I know business owners don't want to do, right? So causing offense, having the message come across and it not resonating. Like I said before, closing off doors that otherwise would be left wide open. These things make it to where our message doesn't come across as clear as we'd like it to. So definitely just being able to have our message come across clear to the different, cultural backgrounds, as we keep mentioning. And that helps push off a lot of these ramifications. Another big one that I see often is fear. The fear of, oh, well, if I put something out there, I may offend. Well, the ramification of that would be, if you don't put anything out there, how many lives are you not going to touch? How many consumers are you not going to reach? How much business are you going to lose? So it's ramification in both the financial aspect of a business, leaving money on the table, and then also just having the possibility of the business look bad, offending someone. I know we've all probably seen an ad or a campaign that or a business posting something, and they quickly go back and try to sweep it under the rug or delete it, and then come back with a statement and have to say sorry. Using multicultural marketing, you don't have to worry about any of that. You're covered. That that's not gonna be in the future for you. So just staving off those type of issues is one major benefit of having diversity at the forefront.
Wow. This is Kicking Healthy Relationships to the Curb. If you're just scrolling in or you're just watching, that's Stephanie McPhail. I'm Steve Vaccaro, and that's our expert today, Marissa Hernandez. And we're talking about diversity in the business world. And what's the most rewarding aspect of what you do, Marissa, and most challenging?
Yeah, so the most rewarding aspect for me is being able to not only see the impact that I have on my clients. So it's obviously rewarding when I have a client come to me and say, look, you taught me X, Y, and Z. I implemented it, and look what happened. My business grew. Or I'm having people come into my messages and saying, thank you for fostering diversity. This is so needed. I love seeing the message. Thank you for showing diversity, so that's always awesome and rewarding in itself. But not only do I get the reward of seeing my personal clients' success, but I get to see the impact that they make on their consumers and their clients. And I get to see the ripple effect of that. So it brings chills just thinking and talking of it now. So it's amazing not only being able to see the reward and help my clients, but seeing the ripple effect and seeing how using multicultural marketing and diversity in their businesses helps their consumers and their clients as well. So it's really amazing. And as far as the challenges,
before you say that, Stephanie, can't you feel the passion that the expression, how loving you are to your clients and how you want to see them succeed, and how that impacts you, not just for your personal growth, but for theirs and who they connect with. And that's what it's all about. I felt that passion for a moment. I didn't want that moment to go by because, that's something you could see it. You can really feel it. And I think if you have that relationship with all your clients, you're going to have a lot of success stories down the road as well.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yes, it's definitely my passion, and me being able to have a career out of it. And, it's just an after effect. And that's the same thing with multicultural marketing, engaging with these consumers, not leaving them on the back burner. The business's profits skyrocket, their business doubles, but that's just an after effect. That just comes because of making the world a better place and making diversity be a key component in a business. But yeah, Steve, getting back to the challenges, some of the challenges would be just getting people to wake up to the fact that this is a real issue. There's some people going back to treating everybody the same and that whole conversation that just don't recognize that there's a need for this. So that's one of the main challenges. And then just keeping up with the work that there is. There's always something new to do. There's always something new that comes out as the landscapes and news change. Our tone and different things that we do on social media also changes. So just keeping current as well is a challenge, but I love a challenge, so I'm not complaining.
You can tell you like the excitement of all of it.
Definitely, I do. I love it.
What do your parents think of what you do?
Well, until recently, I would say maybe a year and a half ago, they would still ask and give me the question, well, what is it exactly that you do? So, so far, I think they're really proud. I know my dad said that he's really excited to see what type of mark I can make on the world with my business. It's just great to get their feedback on it as well, because my dad's from Honduras, so he immigrated to the country before I was born. And I learned so many things from him, and a lot of my diverse background in diversity and wanting to be inclusive comes because of him. So it's just great to be able to show him and get to tell him, hey, I'm doing this because of you, and you inspired me to do that. And it wasn't until recently that I actually realized, I was like, yeah, my dad has a big role to play in this. And just like Steve said, setting the foundation for his daughter, and look where she's at. It's just amazing how breaking the generational cycles and these cultural biases just brings about so much change, and it literally can start with one person. So it's awesome.
No doubt, no doubt. We have our final quote today, so we're going to go over a quote. We're going to pop that up on the screen. And beyond every successful woman is a tribe of other successful women who have her back. Stephanie, what do you think?
It's interesting because for a long time, I was very uncomfortable around women, which is weird as a woman. And my sisters kind of felt this way too, which is also interesting. But when I went through my own beginning, because we're always healing, we're always personal growth, right? But when I went through the beginning of my own healing, I had to reconnect to that. I reconnected to my female friends, to my powerful, wonderful women that have been in my life that I had kind of kept a little bit on the side. And I now would 100% agree with that. I have my people that are there to help me and support me. They're not jealous. They're not trying to, tear down the excitement that I have for the things that I do. And if I'm feeling stressed, I can vent or, decide to go out and hang out or whatever I need. But that, that group of people is really important to me. So sure, I think, being helpful and supportive of each other as women, it's easy for people to be jealous and hurtful and all that kind of stuff. But it's way nicer and way easier to be supportive of each other.
Marissa?
Yeah, definitely. Kind of like Stephanie said, I was a little uncomfortable around women, and not only women, maybe just everyone. I'm more of an introvert. I like my alone time. But really noticing that not comparing so much on social media, realizing that all of these women, we're in it together. We can support each other and lift each other up. Her success then becomes an inspiration to me, instead of, oh, darn, why isn't my post getting as many likes, or why isn't my business getting as much traction, speaking in the online business world. But yeah, just being able to connect and finally, have those connections. I have seen myself as a woman grow. Being able to link arms and not see it so much as competition and shoving each other out of the way, but more of, we're in this together, and let's help lift each other up. It's just a different vibe, a different energy, and that is what makes all the difference, really.
Wow. Real quick, what is one thing that every business owner or entrepreneur can do to foster diversity in their business?
So one thing, and this is the number one, the first step, the number one thing where I always start, is recognize that there is a need. Take a look at your own business, your own brand, and really evaluate, am I fostering diversity? Am I fostering inclusion? Am I trying to be mindful of all cultural demographics that would or could be interested in my service? When we ask that question, and when we realize there is a need, that opens up the door to so many opportunities, that opens up the door to so many different ways that we can connect. And then that opens up the door to the success that comes with multicultural marketing. So the first thing and the first step would definitely be recognize that there is a need. And then after that, decide what you want to do about it.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. Look how fast the hour goes by. We're going to have to bring you back, Marissa.
Oh, I'd love to come back anytime.
You're amazing. And I love the spirit.
Thank you.
And especially in this day and age, we need that spirit. We need those people that are doing things to help others and getting pleasure and enjoyment to see other people grow. Mm-hmm. It's like Stephanie said, it's not about divisiveness. It's not about tearing people down. It's about bringing people up. Mm-hmm. And thank you for doing what you do. How can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, definitely. So people can check me out on my website, marissahernandez.com. I am available for any type of chat. If you want to just bounce ideas or a question, I am here. Any way that I can help anyone who is remotely interested in diversity and how they can foster it in their business, that's what my mission is. So yes, marissahernandez.com, and also on Instagram at Use Multicultural Marketing. You can find me there as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you. Talk about kick unhealthy relationships to the curb. I mean, you're kicking that unhealthy relationship people are having with, you know, the ability to have everyone included. You're kicking that to the curb. So let's get everyone included. Let's get Marissa on your team and make sure that everyone's included in your marketing.
That's
Definitely.
right. That's right.
Let's do it.
God bless you, Marissa. Take care. Have a nice holiday weekend. Marissa Hernandez. What a great guest there, Stephanie.
Yeah, we got some good people on. You know, it's funny. I talked to someone last night who said, you know, I've been watching your show, Stephanie, and you get some really quality guests on your show. And I was like, heck yeah, we've got some amazing people that come and share their wisdom. So if this is your first time tuning in, you should definitely start making this a weekly thing, because we have some really great perspectives from people with all sorts of different backgrounds coming and sharing their experiences on the show.
Honestly, I do a lot of stuff. This is one of my favorite times of the week, really, honestly, because the rapport is natural, it's organic, it's positive, it's empowering, and it's helping people on every show that we do. So thank you so much. But we also have another person, Danny Benson, who's on the network here. I'm Proud of You, Sis, a show that immediately follows ours, and she's doing amazing things, and she's all about positivity. Danny, welcome.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hey, Steph. Hey,
Hi.
Steve. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Fine. I just want to wish everyone a happy holiday. It's going to be a fun week this week. You know, the kids are off from school. It's spring break and stuff like that. And my puppy wants to say hi to everyone. Say hi.
Yeah. What's the name there?
I just want to wish everyone a great holiday. Please join us on I'm Proud of You, Sis. We're going to talk about loss today, because it is the holidays. It's hard for a lot of people. And my puppy loves me so much. I don't know what to do.
Wow.
But, I don't know what I would do without Brownie. Everyone say hi to Brownie. But
Hey,
I just
Brownie.
want to say that we have Judy Foster. She's a therapist. We're going to talk about loss. So many people are suffering loss, especially around the holidays, and are starting to feel it now that we're going past COVID. So we want to guide people through how to get through loss and get back to your life and get back to normal.
Wow.
So thank you. Thank you so much for having me, and happy
So don't go away.
holidays.
Your show is starting in 4 minutes, so people can just stay right here and check out Danny. I'm Proud of You, Sis. She does an amazing show week after week. She's a great spirit, great person, and it's got one of the best smiles going. Thank you so much, Danny. I mean, Stephanie, another show in the books there.
Yeah, tune in next week. We've got some more great stuff coming in. Somebody else that I talked to that I think is going to be a great guest and great conversation next week. So put it in your calendar, because if not, if you're like me, we have all these intentions of what we want to do, but if I don't put it in my calendar, I forget. So get that cell phone out, click away, put us in there, and set yourself a reminder to come back and see us every week.
And tonight, 7 to 9 o'clock, we're on a radio show. It's broadcasted in Florida, New York. It's syndicated tonight. I'm interviewing one of my idols, rock idols, Rick Wills, who was a bass guitarist for Foreigner for 14 years. And you got to check this show out, because it's a great rock show, but it's also an advocacy show. And Stephanie, I got to get you on board for this show too.
I'm gonna have to tell my husband, because we actually went through a whole 80s kick a few days ago, and Foreigner was top of his list.
Well, we're gonna end today's show with the song "Foreigner Forever." We're gonna get them in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Tune us in at 7 to 9. We're gonna take us home with a little Foreigner. See you next week, Steph.
Bye, everybody.